Welcome back, everyone. Okay, now we're gonna make all the metal parts on his suit. So like the belts, the eagles, the shoulder pads, all that jazz. So we'll start by making the belt. Classic way we make belts. Just a nice little square or cube, and then extrude around it, half of it, and then we mirror it. Now his belt is relatively easy, doesn't have much detail other than that indentation and that line, so that should be fairly easy to make. So once we pass the middle, keep notice of that origin point. You need to cross that so that when we mirror it, it can actually connect all the pieces and we won't have any loose geometry. Okay, so we mirror, and now let's start adding some lines. So a loop cut with Control R, select these faces and just extrude inwards a little bit, make them smaller. Okay, that looks about right. Cool. Now what we want to do is try and make that line that goes along the whole belt. So how are we going to do that? We are going to first of all fix this hanging bit and position it a little bit better. Alright, and now we're going to add loop cuts near the creases so that when we subdivide it's actually sharper. And then before we apply the modifier, we want to make that line. So we're going to select all the faces that we have made here on this line up until the edge, not the final faces. And then we're going to size them up and rotate them. Just make it sharper. Okay, now that we made the line, we're going to select all the faces and the line that we made. Just deselect the wrong faces. I don't know of a better way to do this. So just select the faces, and anything else that grabs along, just deselect it with Control drag. Okay, so deselect all these. Perfect. Okay, and now we just simply rotate on the x-axis with RX, and there we go, there are the lines. Very simple, and clean too. So that's a good looking belt. Now, let's add a nice little color. Make it gold. Perfect. Okay, now we're going to make the shoulder pads. The shoulder pads are a little bit tricky. It's like two eagles' wings, one on top of another with a head. I couldn't find a patron, so I'm gonna have to eyeball it. It's gonna be messy. It's not gonna be clean, but it's gonna look pretty good on the final model. But yeah, ideally in these kinds of things, you want some sort of patron or spread out version for like a cosplay thing. I couldn't find one on Google, so I just have to go, eyeball it. So we'll start by making one side of the wings that are supposed to wrap around, and then mirror it so we can have it on both sides. The origin point is kind of dumb here, so we're gonna have to drag everything to the left a little bit. Okay, and now we're gonna mirror it. Perfect. So this is the lower part that attaches to the suit. So we need to bend this now. So let's try not a curve modifier, a simple deform with a bend. Now something's off. Maybe the geometry is just too little geometry. I'm not sure why this happens. Sometimes this happens where you try to bend this thing and it just bends in two different spots at the same time. I don't know why. Maybe it's the mirror we did before. Other times it worked great. But anyway, we're going to do it with a curve modifier then. And we're going to add a bezier in the middle. So we can kind of bend it without issue. Okay, so just kind of bend it like that. Now it doesn't look spectacular, but it works. So we're going to apply the modifiers. Let's add a couple more loop cuts. Okay. It's bent enough. Okay, apply the modifiers. And now we want to put it in place and bend it even more to fit the form. So once we put it where we want it, we're going to go into sculpt mode. Yeah, why don't we go ahead and duplicate it, because the front part is pretty much the same. And just drag it with a move brush. And just make it fit Homelander's shoulder. Some of the edges are not going to be super smooth after this, or super sharp, sorry. And up close it's going to look not great, but the actual model for the size you're going to print it will look pretty much on point. So yeah, unless you can find a patron, just don't be afraid, go with it, and whatever comes out, you made it, be proud of it. Okay. Here's where the head supposedly starts, the forehead of the bird. And then we're going to add the beak as a separate piece, so it can be nice and sharp like a beak. Okay, so after we're done with this, we're gonna do the same on the one below. Drag it more in place. And this thing is a little bit further out than we want. Try and make it as curved as possible. I should probably get rid of this picture, but I'm too lazy to go into object mode again. Okay, smooth it out. Do the same on this side. Yeah, smooth it, but not with a very strong brush. Okay, that's acceptable. Let's make the beak now. Just a simple beak. We start off with a cube, just make one side smaller and make it look like a beak. You know, sometimes you have in your mind how certain things are, and then when you start making them, you're like, holy shit, I don't actually know how bird beaks are. But anyway, this is too small, so it doesn't really matter. But with other things, you'll be like, okay, of course I know how a shoe is. And then you start modeling a shoe and you're like, wait, where are the seams? How does the sole connect on both places? Like, how do shoes work? I've never seen a shoe before. It's actually kind of funny. So yeah, just make a beak. Doesn't need to be perfect. It's going to be so small on the actual model, you won't be able to see it. But it needs to be there. So you have to make it. Okay. Size it appropriately, put it into position. And then we're going to go ahead and add a couple of eyes for the bird. Just make the forehead a little bit bigger to support the eye sockets. smooth it out. Make it look as much as a frown like the eagles have. There we go, that looks pretty good. Now let's add the eyes. Just a couple of spheres. Make them small. Put them in position. Don't worry about it anymore. That's all you need to do. Now let's make everything a nice little gold. After we join the parts. And I say it looks pretty good. Now rotate it. Always, if you can get away with not mirroring things, don't mirror them, because it flips the geometry and they work on a different standard when you flip normals. So put the other piece in position, and there you go. There are Homelander's shoulders. Yep, they look good. So now, let's make the logo. Luckily, I found a picture that is straight on. So we're going to put it in the background, add a plane, and start. So start making the shapes. Just trace all the shapes, one after the other. Duplicate the plane and keep on doing it until you have the whole thing. So I'm gonna do that and be back in a second. Okay, we're done. Now we're gonna take the left part and duplicate it and rotate it 180 degrees and place it on the other side, which should have us complete the symbol. Just one by one, just like this. There you go. It's really simple, making all kinds of symbols and logos. If you have a nice picture that is straight looking upwards, and you can just trace it. So there we go. Now as you can see, this is messed up because it's a plane, but that's fine. Let's extrude everything so it can have a little bit of depth, and now you see it's good. So we need to recalculate outside all the normals just to make sure nothing's flipped, and we put it into position. Let's duplicate it, have that. And now place it on the belt buckle. Make it larger on the y-axis so that when it prints it's not super thin and breaks. And there you have a very nice looking belt buckle. Okay, so that's all the metallic detail on the suit, I think. So I'm going to end this video here, and on the next one we're going to make the gloves, the boots, and probably the cape, and complete the whole look. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.